All right. Well, hopefully I can hear my voice. We're about to find out here right now. The stream is about to start. Let's see. All right. There we go. Before it starts echoing inside the thing, let's get to the main. Yeah. All right. So I had all this shit planned for today. Oh, I got a little. What was that? Oh, I thought I had a grease mark on my shirt. So I had all this shit planned. I haven't streamed in like. I haven't uploaded anything in about like 6 weeks. And it's not my decision, by the way. That was YouTube's decision. And I was gonna do a stream to YouTube and then also to Rumble. And then my computer decided to freak out. And when it freaks out, it takes like a half hour for it to restart. So that put me behind. I had all this cool stuff ready. We're gonna make fun of Keith Olbermann. You know, we're gonna talk about what other media outlets were talking about with this town hall. That's what we're streaming now. I just came in. It's like this stream will be the town hall stream. Donald Trump will be on CNN's town hall. It is very controversial because he's the orange man. He's the orange villain. Let's get this back up here so that way my voice sounds a little bit better. But so let's look this up. Like I said, I had all this stuff ready, man. We were gonna have a fun time before this started. But like all things, nothing ever happens the way it needs to happen. And it looks like they're just gearing up out front right now. So let's bring this up and see what they're saying.
And you hear that from voters a lot, the exhaustion out there about this. And sort of sick of the drama of him. So we'll see how much he brings to that.
You sick of the drama?
I'm not even going to go there.
Let's bring this up.
I am curious about two other things. How much does he try to hit Biden? How much does he try to hit other Republicans like DeSantis? And I'm also curious, words have consequences. We saw that on January 6th. I'm very curious to see whether, and I use the word
looks good on your guys' screen. Okay, there we go. It's fixed on my screen too.
Whether he is sort of stays away from that kind of language.
An important night here in the United States. We're watching it
right.
very, very closely. And to our viewers, thanks very much for joining us. CNN's Republican Presidential Town Hall with Donald Trump starts right now.
Okay, well, here we go. So, what we were going to talk about while we're waiting for this shit to start. Here, let me fucking put a mute on that. We were going to talk about, bring up Keith Olbermann because he said some fucking, he's such a fucking asshole, dude. He is. He's so outraging that it's funny. You know, and he said he was calling CNN a fucking, a political whorehouse. Because they were going to have Donald Trump on. You know, it's just like, Jesus. You know, that's not the first time he said shit like that. You know, that's just so outrageous that it's funny. But, you know, I was going to show you another clip where he was talking about the 2016 election and how it was the end of our democracy and it was going to be the end of America as we know it if Trump was able to take the presidency after he already won. He was calling on senators to not put in their electoral vote for President Trump, and they should give it to Hillary Clinton. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, it does. That's what they're calling him a villain for. But here comes Trump. Let's bring this on here, okay?
President Trump, thank you for your time here tonight. We got a great crowd here in New Hampshire, a lot of voters with a lot of questions about what your 2024 term would look like, what another Trump term would look like. We'll get to the voters shortly, but your polls show that you are dominating the Republican race right now, but you are also under active federal investigation for trying to overturn the 2020 election results. Your first term ended with a deadly riot at the Capitol, and you still have not publicly acknowledged the 2020 election results. Why should Americans put you back in the White House?
Because we did fantastically. We got 12 million more votes than we had in, as you know, in 2016. I actually say we did far better in that election. Got the most that anybody's ever gotten as a sitting president of the United States. I think that when you look at that result,
better not kick me for that, YouTube. That's Trump saying that, not me.
Unless you're a very stupid person, you see what happens. A lot of the people in this audience, and maybe a couple that don't, but most people understand what happened. That was a rigged election, and it's a shame that we had to go through it. It's very bad for our country. All over the world, they looked at it, and they saw exactly what everyone else saw. You look, even if you just look recently with the 51 intelligence agents, that made a 16-point difference. If you look at the FBI, and Twitter, they call it Twitter files, made a big difference. If you look at
Mr. President, back to what you just said there, though, it was not a rigged election. It was not a stolen election. You and your supporters lost more than 60 court cases on the election. It's been nearly 2.5 years. Can you publicly acknowledge that you did lose the 2020 election?
Let me just go on. If you look at True the Vote, they found millions of votes on camera, on government cameras, where they were stuffing ballot boxes. So with all of that, I think it's a shame that what happened. I think it's a very sad thing for our country. I think it's a very sad thing, frankly, for the world, because if you look at what's gone to our country has gone to hell. Our borders are bad. Our military has been bad. You look at the taxes, you look at inflation, what's happened to inflation. It's just destroying our country. We've really become, in many ways, a third world country. And it's very sad what's happened in this administration. And it's something that will turn around on day one. We were energy independent. Now energy is at a level that we've never had to pay before. Nobody can afford to continue to pay what's happening with energy. But we were energy independent. We were getting out of Afghanistan with strength and with dignity. And instead we got out, we looked like fools, probably the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country.
We have a lot of questions about the economy and foreign policy tonight, but what you just said there, Republican officials debunked those claims about fraudulent ballots. We want to give you a chance tonight.
Who?
Republican officials in Georgia and every single state.
Name one.
There is no
Name one. And
officials,
I noticed that my fucking
so
watermark over here is fucking covering my face, but I'll fix that here in a bit.
We wanted to give you a chance to acknowledge
we have elections that were horrible. If you look at what happened in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, if you look at what happened in Detroit, Michigan, if you look at what happened in Atlanta.
Thank you, Billy. I appreciate that.
Millions of votes, and all you have to do is take a look at government cameras. You'll see them. People going to 28 different voting booths to vote, to put in 7 ballots apiece.
But Mr. President, and they're all I have to stop you there because there is no evidence of that. Your own election officials testified to that and have said that Republicans in these states did this. In Georgia, there were multiple recounts, including a hand recount. We have questions about the claims that you're making tonight from voters on this topic. I want to bring in Scott Dustin from Concord. He works in insurance litigation. He's an undeclared voter. That's what they call independents here in New Hampshire, as you know. He did vote for you in 2020. Scott, what's your question for the president?
Hi, President Trump. Welcome back to New Hampshire.
Thank you.
Will you suspend polarizing talk of election fraud during your run for president?
Will I suspend, excuse me, what?
Will you suspend polarizing talk of election fraud during your run for president?
Yeah, unless I see election fraud. If I see election fraud, I think I have an obligation to say it. And you know what we went through a short while ago has really put our country in a big problem. I hope to do that. I hope we're going to have very honest elections. We should have voter ID. We should have one-day elections. We should have paper ballots instead of these mail-in votes. But the answer is yes, and I hope that it's going to be very straight up, because if it's going to be straight up, we're going to win the election.
So you will suspend talk, to his question, about the 2020 election on the campaign trail?
I guess we're going to just win. We're at a point now, we're getting so close. Let's just win it again and straighten out our country.
One other question on this. When you've talked about the 2020 election results in the past, you once suggested terminating the Constitution. Do you stand by those comments?
No. You were able to do certain things. I'm not talking about terminating the Constitution. I'm talking about cherishing the Constitution. The Constitution says that we're supposed to have
Hopefully that
legal
worked and got rid of the watermark. We'll see what happens.
and
If not, it is what it is, huh?
And we didn't have that. I cherish our Constitution, but we have to live up to the Constitution. We weren't living up to the Constitution.
I was just saying there's no evidence of that election fraud. You did once tweet.
You're supposed to say that, but I'm glad you say that. But look, that was a horrible election. That was a horrible election, and unless somebody's very stupid, and I know you very well, you're not stupid at all, but you perhaps are given an agenda or you have an agenda. Look, we have to have honest elections in our country. We have open borders. We have. You look at what's happening. I mean, we have elections. We have open borders. Look at what's happening on our southern border. Millions and millions of people are coming here. They're being released from prisons. They're being released from mental institutions. And we have millions of people pouring into our country. And now they're getting rid of Title 42, which I put on, which kept people out that were sick and
Mr. President, we have a lot of questions about immigration to get to tonight. Obviously, that's a big topic, especially given what's expected to happen tomorrow. But I want to talk about the influence you have over your voters. It's very clear that you are very influential over them. You have a lot of impact. I've been to many of your rallies and seen it up close, which raised a lot of questions about the influence that we saw that you had on them on January 6th and your supporters when they attacked the Capitol.
So what they're going to do, man, is they're going to try and make this really heavy on January 6th and the insurrection.
January 6th was the one we go back to.
Which,
January 6th had to do with the fact that hundreds of thousands of people, and you don't see
it's been poured over and over again, and Trump's already said what he needed to say, but they want to try and catch him in something on CNN so that way they can say that we did our due diligence and try to push back, right?
And I've spoken to hundreds of thousands of people. I've never spoken to a crowd as large as this, and that was because they thought the election was rigged, and they were there proud. They were there with love in their heart.
Exactly, Billy.
Unbelievable.
Exactly, Bill.
It was a beautiful day.
Sorry if I called you Billy. I don't know if you like that or not.
I wasn't involved in it very much. I was asked to come in. Would I make a speech? I made a speech. I said, walk peacefully and patriotically, many different things. In fact, I brought a list of things. I don't want to bore the audience, but we can go sentence after sentence after sentence of things I said and things I put out.
Yeah, and they never show that when they show his part of his speech that made people incite to violence. He does say peacefully and patriotically, make your voices heard.
They are
and they keep that out of there when they show it because it kind of debunks what they're the narrative they're trying to paint.
You're acting defense secretary.
It's wrong.
She turned me down in writing. They turned me down.
But your acting defense secretary, Chris Miller, at the time, he says you never gave a formal order to deploy the National Guard. But when it came to that day,
just the opposite. Chris Miller wrote a book, and he's a fantastic guy, and he was ready to go. They turned him down. If you look, the mayor of Washington, D.C., lovely lady, she said, we don't want it. We don't like the look. Nancy Pelosi said, we don't like the look. If they would have had I offered them 10,000 soldiers. I said, it could be 10, it could be more, but I offered them specifically 10,000 soldiers. If they would have taken 500 soldiers, you wouldn't have had the problem. They turned it down. And if you look at the Inspector General report, he says they turned it down. They made a terrible mistake.
Well, Chris Miller was your acting defense secretary. He says you never gave that order. But back to what happened on that day.
You said you weren't. He did not say that.
He has testified that, Mr. President.
He did not say that.
But you said you weren't very involved that day. You did tell your supporters to come to Washington. You tweeted about it, about that speech that happened on the rally.
No, they do not.
So
they do not.
When they went to the Capitol, and they were breaking into the Capitol, smashing windows, injuring police
So,
officers.
what I do expect them to bring up in this
to go home?
town hall here is Trump did get indicted, or the jury found him guilty of sexual assaults.
So if you look at
So they'll bring that up, but what it is they didn't find him guilty of him actually sexually assaulting her. They found him guilty because of things he said, so he kind of in a way sexually assaulted her, so they were kind of playing this word game because of the way he's talked about women and the way he kind of talked about her not being an attractive woman that he would go after. So they basically said,
if you look, January 6th, before 2:30.
you know
I
what?
am
There's no
asking for
evidence showing
everyone
that
at
you
the
sexually
US
assaulted her, but
Capitol
we
to
believe her
remember
story, so
this
we're going to
is
say that you
right
sexually
after,
assaulted
as it
her
was happening.
because we don't care and
What
we think you're
happened
guilty.
was
That's exactly what the
they
jury poll in
took
Brooklyn
it
did.
down.
It's
I don't know
wrong.
why. I
It's
think they
fraudulent
took
is what
down
it is.
because it was so good. They didn't like it being up there. I am
All right, let's hear
asking,
what he
this
has to
is- and we didn't know until I got it back, because now I have 90 million people waiting for me to go back, but I'm on truth and I'm staying on truth. Listen, I am asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. No violation. We want no violation. We want no violence. Remember, we are the party of law and order. Respect the law and our great men and women in blue. Thank you. That was at 2:30. That was very early.
Mr. President, I looked at the same timeline that you did.
No,
Once
I know,
it was
but you
clear,
didn't report that. You know why? Because it was
we
taken
did report
down.
it. I was reporting
It
that
was
they-
taken down and it wasn't
But when
put
it was
back up.
clear to you that they were not being peaceful, you saw them rushing the Capitol, breaking windows. They were hitting officers with flagpoles.
Yeah, but they were doing that
tasing them,
before
beating them
his
up.
speech was
When
over.
it was clear they weren't being
They were
peaceful,
already rioting
why
and
did
breaking
you
into
wait
the
3 hours
Capitol
to tell them to leave the Capitol?
right
They
when
listened to
he
you
was
like
ending
no
his
one else.
speech.
You know that.
And it's a 35-minute walk from the ellipse to the Capitol. So anybody who was at the actual Trump rally
But Pelosi's not in charge of
didn't
the
make
Capitol.
it there
Remember, I made a
till
video
most of the people were already
outside the
done
Oval
rioting and
Office
breaking
in the
in. That's why they were
Rose
just letting people in because the rest of them showed up,
Video.
right?
I didn't have a
And they were just
script.
like,
I don't
we
need
don't want to
scripts like
repeat
this.
what just
Listen,
happened
it's
earlier,
all
What
right.
so
time
let
did
them
the
in.
video? It came out
Now, that's my
much
opinion on it
later.
there, you know, but.
It was a great video, and it was a beautiful video. And it said, I mean, I don't want to read it all, but you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order.
He did say that.
We have to respect our great people of law and order. We love the people of law and order. We can't play into the hands of these other people. We have to have peace. Please go home. I
Well,
said that.
referring
You know
to
what
the
they
law and
did?
order there,
They took
Mr.
that
President.
down, and you know, to this day, it hasn't been put up. And the reason is it's so good and so conclusive that all of this nonsense and all of the tens of millions of dollars that have been spent are just wiped away with this one. And they've never put it back up. They had another one that they did the same
But
thing.
that video that you referenced there, it wasn't posted until 4:17 p.m.
No, I'll tell
they
you,
breached
it
the
was-
Capitol at 2 p.m.
That video was
Mr. President.
posted,
4:17
yeah,
p.m.
before, actually a little bit before that.
Right. So that's my question.
excuse
Because
me.
in that 3 hours, over
Excuse me,
140
it was
officers
posted
were
after the
injured.
first one I just read, though, and that was at 2 o'clock.
But I think the reason the timeline is so critical here, because going back to your influence, in
Here's
that
another
3
one I
hours,
posted.
over 140 officers were injured that day.
And a person named Ashley Babbitt was killed.
Yes.
You know what? She was killed, and she shouldn't have been killed. And that thug that killed her, there was no reason to shoot her at blank range.
So if I'm remembering right,
blank range, they shot her.
Where Ashley Babbitt was
a good
at,
person. She was a
there was no
patriot.
senators
Well,
over there
there's
on
no
that side. They
reason-
were on the
there was no
House
reason.
side.
And
And everybody had
He
already
went
been
on television
evicted
to brag
by the
about the
time
fact that he
Ashley
killed her.
Babbitt was
That
shot.
the officer was not bragging
People that
about
were
the
at
fact that
the
he
house
killed
and
her.
that
But
were
one
kind
person
of
who was
there
in the
still.
Capitol that day, as you know, was your vice
So
president,
there was no
Mike
reason to
Pence, who
shoot
says
her
that you endangered
because
his life
they were
on
not
that
going to
day.
be endangering
I don't think he was
anybody.
in any danger.
Mr. President,
I
do you
understand
feel
that they
you
probably
owe him an
shouldn't have
apology?
been breaking in
because he
like
did something
that.
wrong. They
But
should have put the votes back to the state
the-
legislatures, and I
fo-
think we would have had a different
the lethal
outcome.
force that they
I really
used
do.
didn't need to happen.
He doesn't
Nobody
have
was in
authority
danger
to
at
do
that
that,
point.
as you know.
Everybody had been evacuated on that side of the house. The senators were still on the other side of the house, but that's not where they were at.
This one out just now, 'cause
No, at
this
least
is
that's not where
just
Ashley
keep it
Babbitt was
interesting,
at.
right? I like Mike Pence very much. He's a very fine man. He's a very nice man. He made a mistake. His lawyer said, you cannot move. I called him the human conveyor belt. I said, even if the votes, I talked to his lawyer, even if the votes are absolutely fraudulent, he can't say, yes, sir, he can't send back. And the Democrats played it, and the rhinos played it. And then
Yeah, they
the
did
election
lie
was
about
over.
Jason
They told
Chansley.
him he couldn't do it. And Mike
He
said
did
to
a
me,
lot
"I
of
can't do it.
time
The
too,
lawyers
man.
told me I can't do it.
He
I
shouldn't
can't
have
do it."
even went to fucking
The
jail for
lawyers
that,
are
dude.
wrong, because
He's
right
wrong.
after the election, they all met, the rhinos
shouldn't.
and the Democrats, and they worked
That's
out
what they
a
wanna do.
plan
They wanna-
make
they
sure
want to
that future
jail
vice presidents don't do
People like
what I
us.
said you could do.
That's
So
not
to
what
show
happened.
us
You're
that
referring
if
to
we
the
speak
Electoral
out,
Count Act.
That's
I've
exactly-
read-
that they
I've
will
read
punish us for
there's
speaking
no
out.
authority.
No,
Legal
excuse
experts,
me.
including Republican legal experts, say that he does not have that authority, Mr.
Caitlin,
President. But I want
why
to move
did they
on.
change the law then, saying that you can't do it?
They didn't change the law. They strengthened the law because they were worried about
Oh, they
presidents
strengthened it,
exploiting.
meaning you could do it.
That's not what it means.
Thank you.
They strengthened the law
Mike
because they
had
were
the right to
worried.
do it. They convinced him he didn't, and it was a horrible thing for our country. If you would have sent those votes back to Georgia, Pennsylvania, and other states, Wisconsin, which if you look at Wisconsin, They virtually admitted now that the election was rigged. If
They
you
have
would have
not
sent
admitted
those
that,
votes
Mr.
back to
President.
many of those states, they would not come back in the affirmative. And remember what I said, and you just said it pretty much. You admitted what I said was right. They said he didn't have the right to do it, and he did have the right to do it. And
So
that's why
you
they
can
changed
you
the
can
law,
change your
taking that right
electoral
away.
I should note that
votes
your
as
campaign paid
senators,
for
and
a
you can say
recount
that it's not
happened
going
in
to this
Wisconsin,
person,
and
or
actually
or
had more
withholding
votes for
them
President Biden by the end of it. But I
because you
wanna move
feel
on to
that
Wayne
something
Bennett.
happened that
He's a
needs to be
retired attorney
investigated.
from
By the
North
way,
Conway.
so many illegal votes
I
were
have
cast
I
in
have
Wisconsin.
videos that I was going to
And if you
show,
look
but I
at
just
Milwaukee,
started late,
Wisconsin,
of
they had so many
people at
illegal
MSNBC.
votes,
Chris
they didn't
Hayes
even know what
was
to do
saying
with
that's what
them.
they should do,
You're
and
absolutely
was
right.
on with
There
Michael
weren't any
Moore
fraudulent
saying that's what the
votes in Wisconsin.
senators
I do
should
wanna get to
do
the audience,
is
though. We have questions for you from the
withhold the
audience.
electoral
Wayne
votes,
Byer is
so
a
that
retired
way
attorney
and
from
change the
North
electoral
Conway.
votes
He has
to
previously served
Hillary
with
Clinton
Republican
because
administrations. He
Russia
volunteered
gave
for the
Trump
Republican Party
the
in
election in
2022 midterm.
2016.
He voted for
You know,
you in
rules for thee, but
2020.
not for me.
What's
They
your
were
question
saying
for
that all the
President
time on
Thank you for coming, Mr.
live
President.
news.
Thank you, Wayne.
You know,
My-
which is
my
wrong,
pres- my
and they're trying to make
question
him
to
an
you
evil
is,
person for
will
saying
you
that, hey,
pardon the
maybe this should
January
happen.
6 rioters who were convicted of federal offenses?
I am inclined to pardon many of them. I can't say for every single one because a couple of them.
No, there was people
probably
there-
They got out of control.
Yes,
But,
they did.
You know, when you look at Antifa, what they've done to Portland, and if you look at Antifa, look at what they've done to Minneapolis and so many other places. Look at what they did to Seattle and BLM. BLM. Many people were killed.
Yeah, that's where I'm from,
These
guys. I'm
people-
from
I'm not
the Seattle
trying
area,
to
and I remember when that
justify
was
anything.
happening. I remember CHOP.
But you have two
You know,
standards of justice.
I remember the
of this
people who
country.
died
And
there.
What they've done, and I love that question, because what they've done to so many people is nothing. And then what they've done to these people, they've persecuted these people. And yeah, my answer is I am.
I had
most
friends that
likely,
were
if I get
down in
I will
Seattle.
Most likely, I would say
And they were
it
taking
will be
pictures
a
of everybody
large
lighting
portion of
cop
them.
cars
You know,
on fire.
They did a very.
You know,
And it'll be very early on.
Raz Simone was passing out AR-15s, and he was passing out rifles. Not even to say AR-15, because I don't think AR-15 should be a demonized gun. But he was passing out rifles to protesters that were around the area. Oh no, what happened there? Uh-oh.
Those charged with crimes.
What
on
happened
January
there?
6th. Does that include the 4 Proud Boys members who were charged and convicted of seditious conspiracy?
I don't know. I'd have to look at their case, but I will say in Washington, D.C., you cannot get a fair trial. You cannot. Just like in New York City, you can't get a
No,
fair
you
trial.
can't. Yeah, they charged, what's his name? The guy who posted that meme.
I want to ask you about a significant
About
vote
Hillary
that was
Clinton
reached
voters.
yesterday. I know this is something you want to weigh
They
in
charged
on as well.
him
A Manhattan jury
for a
found that you
meme
sexually
that he
abused the
posted in
writer
Florida,
E.G.
but they
Carroll
charged
and
him in
defamed
New
her.
York.
You've denied this.
Like, how does that
But
make
what do you
sense to
think of
do
voters who say
it? You know,
this
I just don't
disqualifies
understand
you
how
from
you
being
can
president?
charge
There weren't too
somebody
many of them because my poll
that
numbers just came out.
maybe
They went
Florida
up.
should have charged him for it. Not even that. It was for a meme, and they extradited him to New York
I think
for something that he posted
I'm
in
the only
Florida.
person in history who had a
It's an
charge
abuse of
like
power
that.
on that
And
part, dude.
usually you leave office, you say, I'm sorry, but I'm going to back home. I'm back home to my family and everything. I'm going to be resigned. My poll numbers went up, and they went up with the other fake charge, too. Because what's happening is they're doing this for election interference. This woman, I don't know her. I never met her. I have no idea who she is. I had a picture taken years ago with her and her husband, nice guy, John Johnson. He was a newscaster, very nice man. She called him an ape. Happens to be African American. Called him an ape. The judge wouldn't allow us to put that in. Her dog or her cat was named Vagina. The judge wouldn't allow to put that in. All of these things. But with her, they could put in anything. Access,
This
Hollywood.
was a jury of 9 people who found you liable of sexual abuse. Do you think that will deter women from voting for you?
No, I don't think so, because I think the whole thing, just so you understand, ready? I never met this woman. I never saw this woman. This woman said, I met her at the front door of Bergdorf Goodman, which I rarely go into other than for a couple of charities. I met her in the front door. She was about 60 years old, and this is like 22, 23 years ago. I met her in the front door of Bergdorf Goodman. I was immediately attracted to her, and she was immediately attracted to me. And we had this great chemistry. We're walking into a crowded department store. We had this great chemistry, and a few minutes later, we end up in a room, a dressing room of Bergdorf Goodman, right near the cash register. And then she found out there were locks on the door. So she said, I found one that was open. She found one. She learned this at trial. She found one that was open. What kind of a woman meets somebody and brings them up, and within minutes you're playing hanky-panky in a dressing room? Okay? I don't know if she was married then or not. John Johnson, I feel sorry for you, John Johnson.
Mr. President, can I?
Think of it.
I know you're recounting what she said, but Mr. President.
Let me just, if I could, because you asked the question.
This was a
just so you
jury,
understand,
though.
if I was walking and
Yeah, but the jury
because I
doesn't
was
mean
very famous
anything.
then, and I owned
A
the
jury
Plaza Hotel right
pool
next door, and I owned
in
buildings around it.
Brooklyn
I'm not
would
going
have
into
convicted him of
a dressing
fucking
room
littering
of a crowded
for spitting on the
department store.
street just
Then I
because they
say,
think Trump is
if
just
she
guilty,
was
period,
being raped,
and they
by
just
the
want to
way,
give him
they said
charges.
She wasn't raped. Okay, that was her
Like,
charge.
it's not a fair
They found
trial.
that
They
sexually
found.
abused her.
What? Say what they did. They said he didn't rape her. And
They did
I
not say
didn't do
that he
anything else either. You know what? Because I have no idea who the hell she is.
But Mr.
I don't
President,
know who this woman
can I
is.
ask you, given your recounting
I
your
don't know
version?
who, and I tell you this.
But, Mr.
Are
President,
you ready?
can I
And I
can I
swear
ask
on
you
my
because-
children, which I'd never do. I have no idea who this woman. This is a fake story, made up story. We had a horrible Clinton-appointed judge. He was horrible. He allowed her to put everything in. He allowed us to put nothing in.
Mr.
Yeah,
President,
but
you're
I've never heard
raising
about
your
that
version
one.
of events here
Her
right now
calling
to the
her
audience.
husband
You referenced
that
the
is black and
trial.
ape.
You did not go
But-
to the trial and actually
That's right.
testify. Do you wish that you had testified?
I believe him.
It wouldn't have made a difference. This
I
was
believe
a
him.
big deal. This was my lawyer said, sir, you don't have to do it. I actually said, I think I should. It would be respectful. They said, sir, don't do it. This is a fake story, and you don't want to give it credibility. That's why I didn't go.
One thing you did do in this.
And I swear, and I've never done that, and I swear to, I have no idea who the hell, she's a
Mr.
whack
President,
job.
you did not testify in person in this trial. There was a taped deposition of you from October in it. You defended the comments that you made on that Access Hollywood tape about being able to grab women how you want. Do you stand by those comments?
I said if you're famous and rich or whatever I said, but I said if you're a star, you are, and I said, women let you. I didn't say you grab, I said women let. You know, you didn't use that word, but if you look, women let you. Now, they said, will you take that back? I said, look, for a million years, this is the way it's been. I want to be honest. This is the way it's been. I can take it back if you'd like to, but if you're a famous person, if you're a star, and I'm not referring to myself, I'm saying people that are famous, people that are
You were
stars,
asked in the deposition,
people
do you
that are
consider
rich,
yourself to be a star, and
people
you
that are
said yes.
powerful, they tend to do pretty well in a lot of different ways, okay? And you would like me to take that back? I can't take it back because it happens to be true. I said it's been true for 1 million years, approximately a million years, perhaps.
And he
a
said
little
that in
bit
his
longer.
deposition,
So
too.
you stand by those comments?
I don't want to lie.
Mr. President, we have a lot of
here's what
questions.
you want to
Hilarious.
say.
President, let's
A
get to
rich
the
and
audience
famous
questions
person
tonight.
has no advantage over anyone else. Well, you do have an advantage. And I say unfortunately, but that's the way it is.
You know, this is what I like about Trump, man, is he does embellish,
you
know,
To get to tonight. I
but
wanna go back
like
to
in
the
his
audience.
embellishment,
We've got Danielle
he's
Rieger. She works as an
saying
oral
truth.
surgery
You know,
assistant.
it's like he's
She's a
not
Republican
lying
activist
to
from
you.
Derry. She was a New Hampshire delegate for you in 2020.
It's just
What's your question?
That's just Trump.
Hi,
He likes
thank
to
you so
embellish.
much for coming to New Hampshire to answer
Straight
our
shooter.
questions. My question is regarding the economy. Over the past 2 years, we have seen the prices for everything skyrocket. From food to gas to utilities and insurance costs, many people's bills are up several $100s a month, including mine. If elected president again, what is the first thing you would do to help bring down the cost to make things more affordable?
Drill, baby, drill.
Yeah. We were the #1 exporter of oil when Trump was in presidency. #1.
We were energy independent.
And now
We were soon going to be energy dominant.
rely on other
Nobody
people to
had
give
ever
us oil
done
now
what I
because
did.
of
We
the
got oil
policies
down
that
to
Joe Biden has
$1.87.
implemented.
Actually, it fell lower
And he
than
told
that
us he
in
was
some
going to do
cases.
that
We had
because
to
he
save
said he
the oil
wanted to get
companies.
us down
The
to
price was
just
getting so-
off of
We
oil.
were doing incredibly. We
You
had the
know,
greatest
no
economy
plan
in the history
on how
of
to
our
do
country,
that.
Probably the greatest economy in the history of the world. We're energy independent, soon to be energy dominant. We were going to be bigger than Russia and Saudi Arabia put together ×2. We have more liquid gold under our feet than any other nation. Any other nation. And these stupid fools ended it. And energy went from $1.87 and even lower for gasoline.
You know what, man? If we would have been able to put in
It
that
went from
XL pipeline,
$1.87 to $5,
and that would have
$6,
gotten
$7,
finished,
even $9. And
we'd
your
probably be sitting at
electricity
$1
bills went through
gas,
the roof,
man.
Your heating bills went through the roof.
If we wouldn't have done,
And
if
that's
Joe
what
Biden wouldn't have
started
done what he's
inflation.
doing, we'd
And
probably be
it
paying
hasn't
like
stopped
$1, maybe
because people are
$1.50.
paying now for
No higher than
bacon
$2
and
for
for
gas.
eggs and for the 2
I
or
used to
3
be able to fill
times
my
what it
gas
was just
tank
a
up for
little while ago.
$30. Now it's
We
like
created
50,
the
60
greatest
bucks.
economy in
And I have
history.
to use
A big part of that
what's that
economy
stuff
was
called?
got you
The higher
biggest
grade
tax cuts in the history of our
gas.
country, bigger than the Reagan
So
cuts,
it really hurts
bigger
me.
than any-
It's insane.
And also, Caitlin, also, as you know, we got the biggest regulation and regulatory cuts. This place was rocking, and then we were given a gift from China, and China paid a big price. And let me tell you something. I took in hundreds of billions of dollars in taxes from China, but prior to COVID coming in, and then I rebuilt the economy again, a second time. But we had, prior to COVID coming in as from China, from Wuhan, which I said it came from Wuhan. Everybody said, oh, you're wrong about that. You're wrong. It came from Wuhan. I said it right from day one. So we had the greatest economy in the world. Here's the story. They made energy so high, and energy is all invasive. It is massive as an industry and as a cost. It lifted everything. If
Mr.
you
President,
made,
staying
if you
on the
made
economy.
donuts, if you made, no matter what you did, and we had inflation, the likes of which I guess we haven't had, they said, for 52 years, but I think more than that. We had no inflation. We had the lowest energy prices we've had in decades. This country was rocking and rolling. And by the way, we had the most secure border in the history of our
Mr.
country.
President, we
and now we have the
have more questions on the economy. I want to make sure we get to all of those. As you know, the U.S. right now could be just 3 weeks away from defaulting on its debt. That could mean millions of jobs lost, people not getting their Social Security payments. People believe it would put the U.S. economy into a recession. On that topic, I want to bring in Marta Cervella, a student here at St. Anselm. She is an undeclared voter who did not vote in 2020. Marta, what's your question?
Hi, Mr. President.
Hi, thank you.
So my question is, what do you think about the United States' current debt situation, and how can we move forward?
Such an important question. So we're at $33 trillion, a number that nobody ever thought possible. When we had our economy rocking and rolling just prior to COVID coming in, like literally, we were making a fortune. And oil, we were going to make so much money from oil, we were going to start paying off debt. But then with COVID
Sorry,
coming
guys,
in, we had
my
to do
camera
other things.
turned
We had to
off.
keep this country alive because it was so serious.
Give me a
But we
second.
have to get the country back. We have to lower energy
likes to
prices.
overheat.
We have to
That
lower
sucks.
interest rates. Interest rates are through the roof. Energy has to come down. It all has to come down, and we have to start paying off debt. But when we have a debt limit, and they use that very seriously to me. They came in, Schumer came in with Nancy Pelosi, and they were using it. We'll violate it. We'll do whatever. They talked a whole
Just gotta
lot
give it a little
different
bit.
than
I'm
they
gonna
do
switch it
right
over
now.
to the
I
other
say to
screen so that way you
Republicans
can
out
still
there,
watch it and
congressmen,
stuff. But
senators, if they
sorry
don't give
about
you
that. I'm
massive
still here though.
cuts, you're going to have to do a default. And I don't believe they're going to do a default because I think the Democrats will absolutely cave because you don't want to have that happen. But it's better than what we're doing right now.
Let that camera
because
cool
we're spending
down.
money like drunken sailors.
So
You know
just
the
to be clear,
expression?
Mr. President, you think the U.S. should default if the White House does not agree to the spending cuts Republicans
Well,
are
you
demanding?
might as well do it now because you'll do it later. Because we have to save this country. Our country is dying. Our country is being destroyed by stupid people, by very stupid people.
You once said that using the debt ceiling as a negotiating wedge just could not happen. You said that when you were in the
That's
Oval
when I was
Office.
president.
So why is it different now that you're out of office?
Because now I'm not president.
The U.S. defaulting would be massively
Well, you
consequential
don't know.
for everyone in this room, for all
You
Americans.
don't know. It's psychological. It's really psychological more than anything else. And it could be very bad. It could be maybe nothing. Maybe you have a bad week or a bad day. But look, you have to cut your costs. We're spending $7 trillion on, much of it on nonsense. $7 trillion on nonsense.
We've got
And
another
I actually
question from
said,
a voter tonight.
get all of that money that was wasted, and frankly, the Senate should have never approved it. Get all that money that was wasted, and if they don't get rid of that, you'll have to default. Okay?
Mr.
You'll have to
President,
default.
we've got another voter here tonight.
And by the way, you're going to default eventually anyway, but it's going to be much messier. I don't think you'll have to default. I think if the Republicans hold strong and they say we want let's say we want $5 trillion off, I really think the Democrats have no choice but to do it. And if I win, they're going to be doing the same thing to me in 2 years. I guarantee you that.
Mr. President,
they're
we've
going to
got
play a
another
very
voter
hard
here
ball game,
tonight.
and they did that before.
Bobby Petrino has been waiting very patiently.
Sure.
He's a student at St. Anselm. He's a member of College Republicans. He's an undeclared voter right now. He supported you in 2020. Bobby, what's your question for President Trump?
Hi, thank you for coming. This is a bit of a pivot, but with gun violence and mass shootings in the news cycle recently, I'm worried that state governments and the federal government are going to act to repress gun rights. Under your administration, you instructed the Department of Justice and the ATF to ban bump stocks. If elected president again, how would you act not only to defend our Second Amendment rights, but to restore rights that have been taken from us, such as, by example, recently the ATF.
Hopefully he says implementing concealed carry.
As you know, the bump stocks are actually a very unimportant thing. And NRA, I went with them, and they said it doesn't mean anything. Or actually, all they do is teach you how to shoot very inaccurately. So we did that. There's been nobody that's protected the Second Amendment, as you know, like I have. I protected it through thick and thin, not easy to do. But we have a very big mental health problem in this country. And again, it's not the gun that pulls the trigger. It's the person that pulls the trigger. And we have to protect our Second Amendment. We have to protect our Second Amendment.
Mr. President, you dealt with a lot of mass shootings when you were in office. This year, there have already been more than 200 mass shootings in 2023. If you are reelected, are there any new gun restrictions that you would sign into law?
I would do numerous things. For instance, schools. We would harden, very much harden. And I'm a very believer. I believe in teachers. I love teachers. I think they're incredible. And they love the children, not quite like the parents, but they love the children in many cases almost as much. Many of these teachers are soldiers, ex-soldiers, ex-policemen. They're people that really understand weapons. And you don't need 5% of the teachers would be more than you could ever have if you're going to hire security guards. But in addition to that, have security guards. You have to harden your entrances. You have to make schools safe. And you can make other places safe. But it is a big mental health problem in this country more than anything else. And remember, we have 700 million guns, 700 million. Many people, if they don't have a gun, they're not going to be very safe. I mean, if they don't have a gun, it gives them security. Now, you need them for entertainment, you need them for hunting, you need them for a lot of different things. But there are people that if they didn't have the privilege of having a gun in some form, many of them would not be alive today. You know, there's a certain country that had a very strict policy on guns, very, very strict.
Which country?
And, Brazil, okay? Brazil, very strict. And the former president of Brazil, and the killing was incredible. They were walking into people's homes and killing people.
You can tell they're trying
no
to.
Protection. He said, "Go out and buy guns." People went out and
Bill,
bought guns.
you can tell they're trying to find holes in what he's saying, but they're not able to do it, man. He's ready, you know.
They are so tough you can't breathe. New York too, and other places also. All of those places are the worst and most dangerous places. So that's not the answer.
No new restrictions that you would sign if reelected, Mr. President. I want you to meet Julie Miles, a registered.
So just real quick
She's
before
a Republican who voted for you.
They always
in
blame
2020.
red states for having the most gun violence.
Mr. President.
But what it is the most gun violence that take place in red states take place in blue Democratic cities that have a Democratic mayor, that have Democratic senators. You know, and they've implemented strict gun laws in those cities, and that's why they are having such
you know that they wanted to bring it back to the states, but that was probably the least important part of that victory. Getting rid of
bad crime going on, and not only that, they are really light on crime as well.
Something to negotiate with.
You know, like Seattle's higher than Spokane, where I grew, where I'm at. Seattle's higher than Spokane.
Deals are being made. Deals are going
Spokane
to be made.
is like the bad area to live, you know, because of all the gangs.
President wanted to get rid.
It doesn't make any sense.
Of Roe v. Wade.
You mean
for 50 years? Republicans. For 50 years, this has been going on. Actually, a couple of
For anybody who's joined in,
for 50 years, this has been going
sorry
on.
if I'm not up there.
I was able to do it.
My camera overheated.
But by doing it, things are happening that are very, very
it'll be turned back on here soon, so that way you can see this beautiful face.
The life of mother, rape, incest, like Ronald Reagan believed in the exceptions. But I happen to believe that. I think it's frankly important to do that. But a lot of people are,
Yes, Bill.
That.
I agree with you. They are got your questions.
The way I look, I think it's very important to say this. I consider the other side to be radical because the other side, under Roe v. Wade and other things, the other side. They're radical because they will Remember the debate with Hillary Clinton? I said, rip the baby out of the womb at the end of the 9th month. They will kill the baby in the 9th month. If you look at that crazy
And that's
governor
true
of
because
Virginia,
Colorado
the
has that
former
implemented
governor,
in their state.
where he said, no, the baby will be born, and then we'll decide essentially whether or not to execute
But
the
Mr.
baby.
President, can we talk about what you would do if
No,
you
but these are the
if you
radical people.
reelected?
It's not the pro-life people that are
But
radical.
if you are
It's
reelected
these
and you're
people.
back in the Oval Office and you get legislation to your desk, would you sign a federal abortion ban into law?
What I'll do is negotiate so that people are happy. But the fact that I was able, I'm so proud of it. We put 3 great justices on the Supreme Court. We have almost 300 federal judges on the Supreme Court.
So just to be clear, Mr. President, you would sign a federal abortion ban into law.
I said this. I want to do what's right. And we're looking. And we want to do what's right for everybody.
But what's right?
But now, for the first time, the people that are pro-life have negotiating capability, because you didn't have it before. They could kill the baby in the 9th month or after the baby was born. Now they won't be able to do that.
But I think this is a really important question for you to answer, because this is something every Republican, including those who are running against you for the nomination, are being asked about is, would you sign a federal abortion ban into law?
And many of them are going to give you the same answer as I am. First of all, I am honored to have done what I did. And a lot of people said, in 150 years, he's now the most consequential president because he saved so many lives. And I'm honored to have done it. And because of what I've done, we now have a great negotiating ability. That's what I do in life. I negotiate. We have a great negotiating ability, and I think we're going to be able to get something done.
But what do you mean negotiating ability? Because the question that Republicans have, and some of your allies on Capitol Hill say that they want to introduce legislation when it comes to banning abortion. If they send it to your desk, would you sign it?
Some people are at 6 weeks. Some people are at 3 weeks.
Very true. Most places right now, red states, that since this has been decided upon the states, they haven't banned abortion outright. It's been up to 6 weeks. You know,
they worked for 50 years. I've never seen
I'm of
anything
two
like
minds
it.
on abortion,
and I was
but I think there's a negotiating path here. And some people might not want that are conservatives. I understand that. But you also got to think about the culture within America on top of that. And where we can meet in the middle, in a sense. You know, but the way it was before Roe v. Wade is there was just Roe v. Wade was the law of the land. And you couldn't really go against it. You know, and then there was other states saying, fuck Roe v. Wade, we don't care. We're going to make a abortion up to 9 months before the baby pops out, which is wrong.
Yeah, but I've given you the answer probably 4 times already.
Oh, what happened here, man? Jesus, the CNN, dude. CNN. I should have switched over to something else. Oh, okay. Well, there's that.
But for a young homeowner becoming their parent.
Sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on with CNN. They said that you can watch it live on their on their website, and then you know they're having troubles here. But we'll wait for this ad and we'll bring it back up. But anybody who's tuned in, thank you. I appreciate it for you guys staying here. Even me going through my technical troubles here, I appreciate that. And here it is. Back to it.
That's why it's the question about a federal abortion ban. You did not say yes or no to that. You did not say how many weeks.
It depends what the deal is. Lindsey Graham's
you did not say
a good
how many
man.
weeks.
He's got an idea, and a lot of other people have an idea. And I look at all the different ideas,
and a lot of people will be curious what your
right
idea is on that. President Trump, we've got more questions to come for you tonight. We'll be right back in just a moment.
All right. Well, let's see if this camera's working now, huh? Since we're taking an intermission here.
Living with plaque psoriasis,
looks like it's turning back on here.
That can help you achieve clearer skin with no routine blood tests required. And doctors have been prescribing Otezla for over 8 years.
All right, let's turn this off because we don't need to hear this.
If you're allergic to
we don't need to hear that. So let's switch over here. See if that comes up. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Well, thanks for joining in with me, guys. I appreciate that. For the people who are still here. They're taking an intermission currently right now. I'm going to bring that down. But yeah, so far, just like Bill said that's in the chat, it's a lot of gotcha questions. You know, they're trying to catch him saying the wrong thing so that way they can get their their like 1 minute video clickbait thing going on here. But he's not letting it happen. Not letting it happen. And the reason it's not happening is because Trump he already knows what he's going to say. He stands by what his morals are. You can tell he's telling the truth in the sense of he's not backing down to these questions at all. He's been very forthcoming to what his agenda would be in the next presidency and what his past agenda was. You know, and they were trying to throw the insurrection at him, but that didn't work either. You know. But I had some other stuff that I was going to go through before this started. And maybe we just might do that right now. So, let's see. Oh, yeah. Keith Olbermann. And if anybody else is tuned in, they're going through an intermission right now, so we're just kind of waiting for them to get back in here. And hopefully what I'm about to show you doesn't interfere with that. But if it does, I'm just going to switch it right off, and we're just going to go back to the town hall. But Keith Olbermann the other day was calling CNN a journalistic whorehouse. and let's just give a watch to what he had to say about that. So let's bring this up.
The transformation of CNN into a journalistic whorehouse is now complete. Network President Chris Licht not only hands Trump a free hour of live propaganda dressed up as a town hall, but the only questions will come from voters in the New Hampshire Republican primary, the ones who believe Trump won the election. Worse yet, Chris Licht bribed Trump because Trump agreed to let CNN fillet him. CNN will reportedly put on more Trump campaign surrogates in the months to come. And it's not just CNN. Last month, Trump abused and threatened an NBC reporter, had him removed, and then threw the NBC reporter's phones. Why didn't we know about this until yesterday?
I don't think that's
because
real,
NBC didn't
but
report
okay,
it.
Keith.
Because
okay,
Trump
Keith.
is also negotiating letting himself be covered by NBC. CNN and NBC whore themselves out and sell journalism to Trump. Hear all that and more on the Tuesday Countdown podcast,
Okay.
available now wherever you podcast.
Fuck off, Keith. Fuck off, Keith. You know, man, the thing about Keith Olbermann, man, he's just, anything he can say to get views, he will do. He will quote opinion pieces as fact. It's fucking insane. But here comes back to Donald Trump, and we'll talk more about Keith Olbermann later.
And she voted for you in 2020. Jennifer, what's your question tonight?
Good evening, Mr. President. Title 42 is expected to expire tomorrow. Our southern border and now our northern border are experiencing record migration. We learned on May 2nd that the Biden administration plans on deploying 1,500 troops to the southern border. Do you agree with deploying troops to the border, and how will a Trump administration slow down the rate of migrants coming across all our borders?
Sure. A very fair question, especially since tomorrow is going to be a day of infamy. You're going to have tens of thousands of people pouring into our country. Even the judge, the judge overruled them when they wanted to terminate it early. And he said, that you better extend this thing. The judge in Texas said, I hope you're going to extend this, but this is my policy that they're letting terminate because they lost in court. They wanted to go earlier. You're going to have millions of people pouring into our country right now at a level that nobody's ever seen before. These people are sick. Anybody that wants this to happen to our country, they're destroying our country, and this should not be allowed to happen. How they're not going to do a version of Title 42 or my Title 42, which was tough. If people are sick and have infectious diseases and lots of other problems, we don't want them being into our country. We have enough problems right now We have problems like we've never had in the history
So
of our
this is the big thing about that, man.
Our country
The reason
is
it's ending,
destroyed.
the reason it's ending
All
is
the
because the
migrants
health
that do
policy,
come in,
the COVID era
they'll get shipped
pandemic
out to
emergency
states.
is coming to
And
an end. That's what Title
what ends
42
up
was. You put it in
happening
place
is the
because
areas that they
COVID.
get shipped
When
out
it comes
to,
to big questions about what your immigration
they
policy would look
count
like if
in
you
the
are reelected,
census.
some of your Republican
And
rivals have criticized
the
you for not
population
fulfilling
count
the
within
promises
those
that you made
areas
on the
of the
campaign trail, like
states
finishing the border
gets
wall.
to
So how do
decide
voters
how
know that you
many
would get those done if
electoral
you're reelected?
votes
I did finish the
and how many
wall. I
representatives
built the
those
wall. I
areas
built
get.
hundreds of miles of
So when
wall,
you have
and I
migrants
finished it, and then I
that-
said we have to build some more
that
because
shouldn't
there are
count to
areas
our
like water
population
going
counts.
through a dam. There are some areas
And
where a lot of people are coming.
they get
You
to
close
this.
up
They get
one
to
and they come into another.
their
And
their
we
population
started
count gets to say how many
another
electoral votes and
100
stuff
miles
happens
of
there.
wall.
So
In fact, I
it's
said to my
it's
people,
in that
if
sense
start this and don't
we
finish
can't let it happen.
And then we had a rigged election. I'm sorry.
Because it's going to give other
Your
states
election
more
was
power
not
and
Mr.
maybe more
President.
Democratic states more power when they don't have the population to have
They
that
took
power.
over and they decided not to finish it.
And then on top of that, a lot of these Democratic states, not Democratic states, Democrat states,
They're just letting people
they'll let them vote. I think in New York, if you are an immigrant,
has to have borders.
you can still vote
There's never been anything like
in
that is happening to our country.
jurisdictional
52
elections. You can't vote for the
miles of
presidency,
new wall when
but
you were in
those
office,
your
Mr.
local
President. It
elections
wasn't the
matter.
complete wall. One other thing that
They affect you more than what the president and or who your senator is.
This is what she does.
No, it's wrong.
I built
It
hundreds
shouldn't be
of miles.
happening.
Some of the wall
And this is
was
going to
up
make it
there,
worse.
And it would be laying on the ground.
I don't think
rusted
Title
rotten
42
steel,
should be
rusted rotten wood.
in place. It was
And
a
what the radical left crazy
it was a
Democrats did,
COVID.
if there's a piece of wood laying down,
It was implemented because of COVID.
30-foot walls that go down.
It was an
7 feet into
emergency.
the ground.
We should
If
find
there
some
was a
other
little piece of wood sitting on the ground,
worker.
they said,
We should
"Oh,
find
he's
some other
not
way
building a wall.
of
We already
controlling
have a wall."
this and take
Because
away
this is
Title
the game.
42
They're a party of
because it was an emergency
disinformation.
act.
It's not a game, Mr. President. It's about 52 miles of new wall. One other immigration policy you
I
had
built
when you were
new
in
wall.
office.
I built new wall
52 miles
for
according
hundreds
to
of miles.
CBP, Mr.
What I did is I
President.
replaced other wall that was laying down.
Thank you,
that
Kim.
was
I
up
appreciate that.
and
I'm just
rotting in
explaining
the ground
stuff.
For 30 years. Some of it was steel that you couldn't
Mr.
even
President,
see.
it was only about 52 miles of new wall, but moving on, another immigration policy you had was the zero tolerance immigration policy that separated families at the border. If you are reelected, are you ruling out instituting that?
Well, when you have that policy, people don't come. If a family hears that they're going to be separated, they love their family. They don't come. So I know it sounds harsh, but if you remember they said I was building prisons for children. It turned out that it was Obama that was building the prisons for the children.
But would you re-implement that if you're reelected? Is that what you're saying?
We have to save our country, all right? We
So
can't
it sounds
afford,
like that's a yes.
No. When you say to a family that if you come, we're going to break you up, they don't come. And we can't afford to have any more. Look at New York City. Look what's happening. They're living in Central Park in New York City. The city is being swamped. Los Angeles is being swamped. Iowa is being swamped. Our whole country is being destroyed. Millions of people are coming into our country. And you know what the number is going to be, in my opinion, by the end of the year? Not the 4 million that you hear and the 3 million and 2. I think it's going to be 15 million people. And in these people, they have no idea where they come from. They come from 129 different countries so far. 120, not just the 4 that we talked about.
Just to put a button on that, it sounds like what you're saying is that you're not ruling out re-implementing that immigration policy. I want to get to another voter. Caitlin Boissonneau is a student here at St. Anselm College. She's a Republican. This will be the first election that she has voted in.
Also,
What's her
Kim,
question for the
just
President,
because
Caitlin?
this is about to happen,
President Trump, thank you so much
I
for
have to add
coming.
context in order for this to still stay up on YouTube. Otherwise, I'll get hit with the content strike. So I have to add context. I just can't show it.
Themselves.
But
do you support this decision, and how would you deal with the increasing threat posed by Vladimir Putin?
First of all, thank you very much. It's really nice. And it's an important question, so important, because we're giving away so much equipment. We don't have ammunition for ourselves right now. We don't have ammunition for ourselves. We're giving away so much. But here's the thing. I have to say it to start off. No longer matters. If I were president, this would have never happened. And even the Democrats admit that. Putin knew it would have never happened. And his pipeline would have never happened. A lot of things would have never happened. But this would never have happened. And all those dead people, both Russian and Ukrainian, they wouldn't be dead today. And all those cities that are blown up and disintegrated right to the ground, that wouldn't have happened. Okay, now, here's the problem. We've given so far $171 billion. They've given, meaning European Union, which is approximately the same size altogether as our economy. They've given about 20. So we're at 170, let's say, and they're at 20. You don't have to know too much about history to realize, or geography, to realize that they're a little bit more affected than we are, okay? So they've got to put up a lot more money because they're taking advantage of us like every other country did. That's why I ended NAFTA and replaced it with the USMCA, Mexico,
But on
Canada.
this issue, Mr. President, I should know, I don't know any Democrats who have said they don't believe Putin would have been invaded if you were president. But her question is, would you continue to give Ukraine money and weapons if you're elected? What's the answer?
I have a very good relationship with President Zelensky because, as you know, he backed me up with the phony impeachment hoax #1 when he said the president didn't do anything wrong. So
that was
I happen
when you asked
to like.
him for an
So I
investigation
happen
in
to like.
exchange
Yeah,
for
that's right.
weapons.
And I was totally exonerated, by the way. Just a waste of time and money.
You were impeached over that.
Falsely impeached. Falsely.
The question is, would you give Ukraine weapons
I was
and funding?
impeached by a crazy woman named Nancy Pelosi.
But the question
who
here
said
is, would you give Ukraine weapons and funding if you were
I
elected?
would sit down. Let me just put it a nicer way. If I'm president, I will have that war settled in 1 day, 24 hours.
How would you settle that war in 1 day?
Because I'll meet with Putin, I'll meet with Zelensky. They both have weaknesses and they both have strengths. And within 24 hours, that war will be settled. It'll be over. It'll be absolutely
Do you
over.
want Ukraine to win this war?
I don't think in terms of winning and losing. I think in terms of getting it settled so we stop
can't win
killing
the
all
war.
these people and breaking them. Now,
I'm sorry to break that to people. They can't.
Can I just follow up on that? You said you don't think in terms of winning and losing. Mr. President, can I just follow up on that because that's a really important
excuse me,
statement
let me
that you
just
just
follow
made
up.
there. Can you say if you want Ukraine or Russia to win this war?
I want everybody to stop dying. They're dying. Russians and Ukrainians. I want them to stop dying. And I'll have that done. I'll have that done in 24 hours. I'll have it done. You need the power of the presidency to do it.
But you won't say that you want Ukraine to win.
You know what I'll say? I'll say this. I want Europe to put up more money because they're in for 20 billion. We're in for 170, and they should be. And they should equalize. They have plenty of money. They should equalize. I got with NATO.
But I'm
when I
asking
sat
you
down,
about
I got
Ukraine
them
right
to
now,
put up
Mr.
hundreds
President.
of billions of dollars that they weren't paying under Obama and Bush and all of these other presidents. That's why they're able to help them fight the war because of the money I got. But I
let's
want
talk about
Europe.
what's happening in Ukraine,
excuse me.
Mr.
I want
President.
Europe to put up more money because they're laughing at us. They think we're a bunch of jerks. We're spending $170 billion for faraway land, and they're right next door to that land, and they're in for 20. I don't think so.
When it comes to what's happening there, when you were in office, you said that you respected President Putin. Do
Yeah,
you
I do.
still respect him today?
He made a tremendous mistake. He was a smart guy, you know. I remember I said he was smart, she was smart. They
What
said
was his
he
mistake?
said President Xi of China, right, is smart. Okay, 1.5 billion people. He's the ruler of 1.5 billion people. I said, yeah, he's a smart guy. How dare he say he's smart? Of course he's smart. They want you to say he's a stupid person. Okay, he's not a stupid person. He's very smart. He's very cunning. And Putin made a bad mistake, in my opinion.
What was his
mistake? His mistake was going in. He would have never gone in if I was president. We used to talk about it, too.
I believe that statement.
Do you believe that
I believe that
is
statement.
a war criminal?
What?
Do you believe that Putin is a war criminal? He's responsible for the deaths of thousands
Well,
of
I think
Ukrainian
this.
women
I think
and
it's something
civil
that
children.
should not be discussed now. It should be discussed later. Because right now we have to get a war. If you say he's a war criminal, it's going to be a lot tougher to make a deal to get this thing stopped.
Exactly.
Because if he's going to be a war criminal where people are going to go and grab him and execute him, he's going to fight a lot harder than he's fighting, you know, under the other circumstance. That's something to be discussed at a later date.
Exactly, Bill.
Right now, we want to get
I agree with
that
you.
war settled. And I'm not talking about the money either. I'm talking about all the lives that are being, the number of people being killed in that war is far greater than you're hearing. When they blow up a city and those buildings come pouring down and then they say 2 people were injured, no. Hundreds and thousands of people are being killed. And we have to get that war settled.
We have more with former President Trump right after this. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with questions from voters right after that.
All right, huh? Okay. You know, so this is the thing about the Ukraine war is I don't think Putin should have invaded. But Ukraine was also provoking, you know, and we were also provoking Russia. The treaty was that we would not expand NATO to the borders of Russia. And we started doing that. And then when talks came in about Ukraine joining NATO, that's when they were just like, fuck you guys, we're coming in. Now, on their side of it, they have Ukraine, that area is where it's connected to the Black Sea. There's a strategic port for one that Russia would like. And also they have natural gas, and I think they have some oil there. So if that was to join NATO, that would put Russia at a disadvantage and make NATO a more powerful empire than they would like. And that always brings back the question of if Russia was trying to but get Mexico to join them, would we be upset with it? And we would. We'd be really upset with it. We would be at the point where we might invade Mexico just to keep that from happening. Can you blame them? That's what it comes down to, is can you blame them for doing what they did? Now, we at one point were going to have a deal bartered between Ukraine and Russia. And what's his name that was part of who led the Brit exit? I forget his name. He has that crazy hair. He came in and had a meeting with Zelensky, and it's reported on. There's articles, and if I were to look, I'd bring them up. I just don't have that ready. He went in and said, "Hey, you can't make this deal because it's going to circumvent what we're trying to do." In the sense of what he was saying, what that talk was about, which is wrong. That deal should have been made. It should not be escalated to the point it is. We shouldn't be sending. I was okay with sending defensive stuff because we were keeping our word in a sense, and I'm all about keeping a word. Word is bond. But when we start sending tanks, which is an offensive thing, we are now joining into the war. And Russia is seeing that. This is no longer us supporting a defense. It's us supporting a front, which is wrong. Very wrong. It's going to get us into World War III. And Ukraine is a beautiful country. It's being destroyed. Thank you, Bill. Appreciate that. And I'm not saying the Ukrainians should be annexed into Russia. I'm saying there needs to be a deal because Ukraine's not going to win that war. And if Ukraine loses, it's gone. It's part of Russia. It's gone. And what do you do then? What do you do then? Do we attack Russia? Because that's what it comes down to. That's what the question comes down to is, do we attack Russia? But anyways, let's see where this is at. Let's see if they're back from commercial break. It just did. It's doing an ad right now. But yeah, it's a very hard question that we have to battle with. And I don't know the answer to that. It's just like Taiwan. They're our main supplier of semiconductors. They are the biggest supplier of semiconductors there. If China takes them over, they get that infrastructure. And now what do we do? Not only do we have a treaty with them, but now we need that. Okay, so Trump's back on. Let's bring this up.
He had boxes sent to Chinatown, where they don't speak even English in that Chinatown we're talking about.
I got to stop you right there.
Nobody talks about him. They talk about us. Just so you understand, I had every right to do it. I didn't make a secret of it. The boxes were stationed outside of the White House. People were taking pictures of the GSA and the various people.
I got to stop you right there, though, because the Presidential Records Act, which is not well known to a lot of people, I read it. It does not say that you can take documents with you. It says actually that they are the property of the federal government.
It says you talk, you negotiate, you make a deal. It's not criminal, by the way. The Presidential Records Act is not criminal. And just so you know,
it does not say you can negotiate to take the documents with you.
Can I tell you? Just so you understand, the Presidential Records Act is not criminal. I took the documents. I'm allowed to. You know who else took them? Obama took them. Nixon took them.
Obama
Reagan
did not
took
take
them.
documents.
Oh, he didn't?
The difference here that I'd like
Take
to
a
know.
look.
The
Reagan
National
took
Archives
them.
says that President Obama
Even Jimmy
did not
Carter,
take
even
documents.
Mike Pence had some documents, and he's a
You
very
referenced
honorable
Pence,
guy.
you referenced
But you know who
Biden.
took them more than anybody is Joe Biden. He has 1,800 boxes,
That's
and
not
nobody
accurate,
even
Mr.
knows where
President,
they
and
are.
you know that.
1,800, and nobody talks about him.
Mr. President,
And they
that's not accurate.
they put a rough guy on us, and they in the
I think
meantime
it's
they have
important, Mr.
nobody.
President, to actually set the record straight here. They took documents, including President or Vice President Pence. When they realized they had documents, they turned them back over. The difference is that you waited to turn yours over, and it was a year-and-a-half effort that included a subpoena with those documents. One question about what happened when you had those
It included a raid on
documents.
my house. That's what it included.
But
They didn't raid.
You'd gotten a
they
subpoena,
didn't raid
and they had not
Biden's
been
house.
turned over yet.
They didn't raid Biden's house. You know what happened? They put him in the house. That's the one with the Corvette, where the documents were laying all over the floor. That was fine. And you know who happens to be at Mar-a-Lago? Secret Service, and they're phenomenal. I have Secret Service. He didn't have Secret Service. The other thing, the vice president cannot declassify. He didn't have the right to declassify. He has documents from when he was a senator. And even Democrat senators say, I can't believe it. No, I went by the Presidential Records Act,
That's not
and
what
we
the
were
Presidential
negotiating
Records
with
Act
NARA.
says. That's not what it says,
And
Mr.
NARA has
President.
red flagged a thing called the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights because they consider them
Mr.
dangerous
President, that's
documents.
not what it
Those
says,
are
and
the people we're dealing with.
I should note that there is a special counsel investigating your document situation, also President Biden's document situation. When it comes to your documents, did you ever show those classified documents to anyone?
Not really. I would have the right to. By the way, they were
do you mean not
declassified.
really?
He can declassify
Not that I can
evidence
think
as,
of. Let me just tell you, I have the
as
absolute
president.
right to do whatever I want with them.
Yep.
I have the right. I was negotiating with NARA. Do you know what NARA is?
The National Archives.
Extremely
negotiate
left group
with
of
them.
people. Extremely left. And I was negotiating with
They're
them.
not
All of a
left,
sudden,
they're
they
bipartisan.
raided my house. They didn't raid the house of Joe Biden. They didn't raid Obama.
But Joe Biden didn't ignore a subpoena to get those documents back like
Joe
you
Biden
did. It's a
took
very clear question.
150 boxes.
But that's the question that
As
investigators
as
have,
vice
I think, is
president,
why you held on to
as
those
vice
documents when
president,
you knew the federal government was seeking them and then had given you a subpoena to return
Are
them.
you ready? Are you ready? Can I talk?
Yeah, what's
You
the
mind?
answer?
Do you mind?
I would like for you to answer the question.
Okay, it's very simple to answer.
That's why I asked it.
It's very simple to. You're a nasty person. I'll tell you.
I don't have me on. Turn my camera off just to give it a rest real quick because I don't want it to go off again.
We were
But
talking to NARA, that's Washington, to bring whatever they want. They can have whatever they want. When we left Washington, we had the boxes lined up on the sidewalk outside for everybody. People are taking pictures of them. Everybody knew we were taking those boxes. And the GSA, the government service, the GSA was the one taking them. They brought them down to Mar-a-Lago. We were negotiating with NARA. All of a sudden, they raid our house. When Biden had his documents, he won't give back the 1,850 boxes. And you're going to find some real gems in there.
But it was
So
Biden
you
who
can't have
alerted
all
them that
these
he had
different
the
sets of-
documents.
all
The
these
National
different
Archives
sets of-
reached out to you to get your documents back. Why did you not turn them over when you got a subpoena
Because we were
asking for you to turn
negotiating
them
with
over?
them. We were negotiating with them as per the Presidential Records Act. We were negotiating with NARA.
That's not what
Very
the
nice
Presidential Records
people,
Act says. I've
but they
seen
got to
it.
love our Constitution.
Yeah, then what does
a
it
little
say?
bit more, and they
Say
should
it.
red flag it, by the way. Very nice people. We were negotiating with NARA. And that's what the Presidential Records Act says, because Richard Nixon, surprisingly, had problems. And he had a lot of problems dealing with NARA. And they ended up passing legislation
they
called the
created the
Presidential
PRA.
Records Act, just for this kind of a thing. We were
My
dealing
last
with them. We
question
were
on this
talking. Excuse me,
this
wait a minute.
subject, Mr. President.
We were talking to them. We would have done it, but all of a sudden they raided the house. Now, why hasn't the FBI raided Biden?
But I just explained to you
Why?
why.
No.
It's because he's the one, they alerted the
1,850
government that they
okay.
had those documents and had them come and get the documents
Why
from
did
his
Biden-
that's
house.
not
The
true.
question for you, though, when it
because
comes to documents,
they didn't.
you
He
still
didn't
have
alert
any
them about what was
classified
over there at
documents
fucking
You ready?
the
Do you?
Penn State, his
I don't
office
have
in Penn
anything.
State.
I have no classified documents.
They found out
And
about
by the way,
that.
they become automatically declassified when I took them. But
No, you have
why?
to declassify
Let me
them.
ask you a question. Why is it that Biden had 9 boxes in Chinatown? And
Yeah.
he gets a lot of money from China. Why is that? And
There
why,
is no
why
evidence
aren't
of that,
people...
Mr. President.
Yeah, there is.
It
It was an article written by the Chicago Times. I think it
President,
was what it
you have
is.
thugs.
Mr.
Why don't
President,
they put him in charge of that?
I need to stop you right there because there's no evidence of what you just said there. What you're referring to there is an office that he had after
That's
leaving
at the
the
University
vice
of Pennsylvania.
presidency.
Yeah.
He had a temporary
University of
office. But I
Pennsylvania,
wanna
and
ask
then
you
there
another
was
investigation
he had
that
other
happened.
boxes
I
of
do know that
evidence
he had
at his attorney's office at in Chicago. If I'm remembering the article
Georgia,
right.
where they are investigating there your efforts to overturn the election results in the
She's
state of
wrong.
Georgia. At the
Nothing wrong. It was
center
a
of
perfect
that,
phone call.
let me finish my question. At the center of that is that call that you had with the Secretary
Perfect
of State,
call.
Brad Raffensperger.
Yeah, sure.
Given the fact that there are indictments expected to come in that case this summer, is that a call you would make again today?
Yeah, I called questioning the election. I thought it was a rigged election. I thought it had a lot of problems. I had I guess he's Secretary of State. I called. Listen to this. There are like 7 lawyers on the call, many of them from there. We're having a call. We're having a normal call. Nobody said, oh, gee, he shouldn't have said that. Why? If this call was bad, I questioned the election.
You
if
asked
this
him to
call
find
was
you
bad,
votes.
I didn't ask him to find anything. Let me
We've
just tell
heard
you,
the audio
if
tape,
this
Mr.
call
President.
was
There's an
bad,
audio of you asking him to
I
find you
said,
11,000
you owe
something
me votes because the election was rigged. That election was rigged. And if this call was bad, why didn't him and his lawyers hang up? How dare you say that? This was a perfect
Well, they were
phone
clearly
call.
recorded enough. They recorded the call, and I should note that, of
This
course,
was a call that was made to question the results of election. And when we can't make a call to question election results, then this country ought to just forget about it.
you weren't just questioning the election results.
I
You
was
were
questioning
asking
the
him to
election.
find you votes. And I should note that there is no evidence of fraud. There is no rigged election in the state of Georgia. I want to get back to the audience, though, Mr. President, because those are false claims you're making about what happened in Georgia. Jordan Tullenberger is here. He's an undeclared voter from Hollis. He voted for you in 2020. Jordan, what is your question for President Trump tonight?
Thank you, Mr. Trump.
Thank you very much.
I'm 26. I'm a veteran. I help manage a private aviation company.
You want a job?
I'd love one, yeah.
I'm looking for somebody very good.
I'm not for mandates or government interference in private business, but I've
Right.
seen Republicans going after us like DeSantis after Disney.
Right.
What would you do as president to protect us from government interference?
Well, I'm the one that really wants to protect you. All of these fake investigations of me are about election interference. They think because I'm leading Biden by 11 points, 7 points, 9 points, I'm leading DeSanctimonious by a lot, by 40 points or 45 points. I think he ought to just relax and take it easy and think about the future, because right now his future is not looking so good. I will tell you this. We are really putting it to Biden, but he's putting it to himself because the economy stinks, inflation is horrible, and the border is a disaster. And by the way he got out of Afghanistan was the single most embarrassing moment in the history of our country.
Mr. President, I have one more question for you here tonight, and I think while we're in front of the voters here in New Hampshire, this is a fundamental question for you. You are running in the 2024 race. If you are the Republican nominee and you are in that 2024 race, will you commit tonight to accepting the results of the 2024 election?
Yeah, if I think it's an honest election, absolutely, I would.
Will you commit to accepting the results of the election regardless of the outcome?
You want me to answer it again? If I think it's an honest election, I would be honored to. And right now, we are so far ahead of both Democrat and Republican. And you know what? If I don't win, this country is going to be in big trouble. It's so sad to see what's happening.
But no commitment there on the accepting the results regardless of the outcome.
If it's an honest election, correct, I will.
Okay, so not committing to accepting the 2024 election results or acknowledging what happened in 2020.
Go ahead.
President Trump, I want to thank you for coming here tonight. This is an important conversation with voters to hear and to have. Thank you to our audience and to our host, St. Anselm College. CNN's coverage continues with Anderson Cooper and Jake Tapper.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Caitlin. Good job. Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you very much. I like you guys. We love New Hampshire. Thank you. Thank you, Woody. Good luck, Woody.
Thanks, everyone.
We're looking there at St. Anselm College in Manchester, New Hampshire. Tonight's CNN Town Hall, moderated by Caitlin
There we go. I probably should turn on my fucking microphone, huh? Anyways, hey guys, thank you. I appreciate for you guys tuning in. Like I said, my microphone was off. Sorry, but I think he did a really good job. He was dodging the gotcha questions, and I think he answered them very correctly in the way he should have. I think, and when it comes to DeSantis, I think both are really good candidates. I have questions about maybe, DeSantis who's funding him, in a sense. I know you can't control who funds you, but I want to know his connections. But if it comes down to Trump and DeSantis, and it comes down to DeSantis winning, I'm still voting for DeSantis. But I think Trump is going to be the better candidate anyways. So we'll see what happens. Thank you for tuning in. I'm going to end this stream. I do a stream, not a stream, but I do a show weekly. And if you liked hanging out with me and my opinions that I was throwing in, hit like, subscribe. I'd appreciate that. I try and upload every Monday. I work another job, so it's hard for me to do that on a consistent basis, but I try to put out an episode every week. And we'll see what happens. YouTube has hit me with many content strikes, so it keeps me from posting. But I do have another YouTube channel, and I'll be talking about that later at some other point. But like I said, thank you for tuning in, and hopefully see you guys next time. Have a great day.